I recently got my disgusting hands on Sony's DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5. As you can probably tell, I've decided to dedicate a video to my thoughts on the pad so far. This review might not be one-to-one with the experience you'll get on the PS5 because I don't own a PS5 to test it on, because this controller was bought for use on my PC, so I'll be talking about the controller within that context. It's also worth noting that I didn't get a chance to test out the adaptive triggers because for whatever reason they aren't supported on PC. I've heard that they work on select games if you plug the controller in manually via a USB, but whenever I try that it causes my games to glitch out, ranging from certain buttons not working to really bad frame rates. If you're getting the controller for PC yourself, in order to set it up, all you need to do is either connect it via a USB lead or a Bluetooth connection. In order to put the controller into pairing mode, just hold the PlayStation button and the share button for a few seconds. Install a program called DS for Windows. I'll throw a download link in the description. Complete the setup and then hit the start button on the bottom of the window. From there, you should see a list of all your connected controllers. DS for Windows already has a very good config set up by default, so you could just be ready to go from here. But if you want to customize your controller input further, there's a whole suite of options for you to do that. I'm very mixed on the controller aesthetically. Call me a nitpicker, but I really miss the colored buttons of old PlayStation controllers. They were a very iconic part of the pad, so removing them is a pretty big L in regards to the visual identity of PlayStation in my opinion. Beyond that, the buttons in the D-pad are very good. They're a lot more reminiscent of the buttons you'd see on the Wii controllers than any past Sony controller, and I like them for that because I'm a big fan of the Wii. An area of the controller that I think really suffers visually is the touchpad. The pad on the DualShock 4 had these very subtle little dots on it, which gave the touchpad somewhat of a design to call its own. It made the touchpad feel very futuristic to me. The DualSense touchpad in comparison not only feels but literally is lifeless and has no sort of detail whatsoever. Minimalism strikes again, I suppose. Other than that, the controller has this very futuristic feel and look to it, which I think is really cool. I feel like I'm holding something from Blade Runner 2049 here. And the buttons not only look great as mentioned before, but also feel great. The face buttons have a very soft press to them, much unlike the Nintendo Joy-Cons, which makes them feel great to press down on, and the D-pad is the same. The back buttons also feel excellent, with a particular standout being the L1 and R1 bumper buttons, which just feel amazing to spam. Something I've always appreciated about Sony's controllers is how great they are for all types of games. If you want to play retro games, you can hold the controller like a SNES pad and basically have that same experience. Or you can drop your thumbs down to an analog stick and get a modern controller experience. Sony's layout feels very tailor-made to fit multiple playstyles, and I like that. The Xbox and Nintendo pads might be better for 3D games, but the DualSense strikes a happy medium between the two. One of my big problems with Sony's controllers over the years has been that they're too small. Whenever I use my DualShock 4, I always feel like I'm trying really hard to find a place to put my hands, rather than just being able to play comfortably. To fix this, Sony opted to increase the size and width of the controller, and I think that paid off. The DualSense controller fits perfectly in my hands and doesn't feel too big or too small. In a somewhat unfortunate decision, Sony decided to reuse the sticks that were used on the DualShock 4, which can only mean one thing: drift! I haven't experienced the problem myself yet, but there have been pretty widespread reports of stick drift in these things, and Sony is currently undergoing a class action lawsuit for the drifting problems, so there you go. Outside of that, the sticks feel fine enough, although they don't grip too well. I found that occasionally in games like Fortnite where you have to walk for long distances, your thumb will occasionally just slip off of the stick given enough time. This problem is especially bad if you're playing games on a hot day and are sweating, and it's a problem I can't say I've ever experienced on competing brands like the Xbox controller, although at the end of the day, this is not a deal breaker at all. Another thing I really appreciate about the DualSense is its touchpad. Using DS for Windows, I've made it so that the touchpad on my DualSense controller controls the computer mouse, with a button press on the touchpad being registered as a left click. As someone who really enjoys lying down on my bed or leaning back on my chair and playing my PC with a controller, this is a huge quality of life feature for me and it's greatly appreciated. Think of my setup like having a laptop trackpad in the middle of the controller. It actually works really well. The controller uses USB-C to charge, which is a godsend, and I'm so happy that USB-C has become the standard for everything now. It's a great power delivery format and I have a ton of the cables lying around nowadays, so the DualSense controller not being packed with a charger isn't the end of the world. Coming from someone who has historically hated Sony's attempts at controllers, I think the DualSense is a very good piece of tech and an excellent feeling gamepad, and I'm glad to have bought it. If you're in the market for a new PC controller or are nervous about buying a PS5 because you don't know if you'll like the controller, I recommend taking the jump. It's treated me well so far.